So we're really excited. We had this new exhibit opening up at the end of the month. It is called Stratford at the Crossroads, Atlantic Cultures and the Creation of America. And it is all about the literal cultural collisions that happened in America, in places like Stratford Hall, where you had enslaved Africans and you had European immigrants and Native Americans all living and existing in one single space. And so this exhibit tells their stories individually and collectively tells the story of a nation and where we were and where we are today.
Boy, and Stratford Hall has a story to tell.
Oh, we have stories to tell. I think that's the most exciting thing about Stratford. It is not a one-story site. There is the who, there is the where, there is the why, there is the when of many different people, whether it be the Lee ladies who were essential in establishing not just Stratford, but the wealth of the Lee family and the United States in general. It is also home to many significant Lee men as well as enslaved African and African Americans who literally built and sustained this site.
How do you put something like this together when there's got to be so much to choose from?
That was actually, I think, one of the most exciting parts of it. Our curator, who's phenomenal, Amy Connolly, and I are both completely in love with material culture and telling stories through objects. So for us, when we had this abundance of objects in our collection, an abundance of paintings, of little things, big things, stories to tell through these different objects, we were very challenged by the amount of information, but through thinking about how these objects tell stories and how those stories individually will work together to tell a larger story, we were able to single it down, if you will, to a smaller selection of objects that really illuminate the story here at Stratford.
You probably go into this having an idea how you're going to do it. Do you learn a lot when you start doing this? All of a sudden you're able to pull things together. I mean, it's just sort of like putting together like a paper or something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the most exciting part, and I think Amy Connolly and I agree on this completely, is that, you know, we both love history. We both love research. And so we'll find something in the collections, not know anything about it, and then do a deep dive and get lost in the research and have to, at some point, cut it off and come back up for air and stop so we can move on to the next object. But for me and for Amy Connolly, this is the kind of stuff that drives us to do what we do and is the most exciting part of our jobs.
Well, we have a book owned by Hannah Lee Corbin, and this was her book of sermons, and she was one of the brave ladies of the Lee family, the sister of the two brother signers of the Declaration of Independence, and she bravely became a Baptist in her later life, and this is her book of sermons that she had in her inventory when she died.
How old is this?
Well, it would be probably 1780s.
Wow, and it has been well preserved.
Yes, it's pretty well preserved.
What's your favorite part of this?
Probably the telling of stories, and to weave the stories that are incredibly complicated and incredibly nuanced together to talk about the fabric of this country. All of the threads that came from different people from all over the world, whether they came here by choice or not, ended up making who we are here as a nation. And this exhibit, with all of the objects and all of the stories, helps tell that story.
And I guess you hope that people walk away from here not only having a better understanding of Stratford Hall, but also this country.
Absolutely. And thinking about Stratford Hall as not just an important place in Westmoreland County or in the Northern Neck, but it was pivotal in Virginia history, pivotal to the history of our nation. And honestly, the exhibit is all about the Atlantic world. During the 18th century, up until the Revolution, we were part of the English, colonization project. And so it broadens it also into talking about things like West African history as well. So Stratford is part of many people's history, whether it be internationally or historically.
As you talk about it, it is exciting to think about this, and it shows that history is more than just something that happened at Plymouth Rock or, you name it, Jamestown. I mean, there are places like Stratford that are really pivotal.
Absolutely. And I think more importantly, we need to sort of break away from this timeline, really hard sort of, chronology that most people think of when they think about history in general. When you start to think about cultural history, social history, what people were eating, how those things that were on the Lee's table ended up on that plate, how things were made, how things were used. This connects people today to the people of the past in ways that a simple chronology and a very important person does not.
And I think whether you go from here and tour the site here or any historic site in the region, you kind of look at things a little bit differently.
That's what I'm hoping. We hope Amy Connolly and I and the whole staff here want us to create a sort of model of looking at sites differently, asking more questions, thinking about the site broader than the ground that you're standing on. What made the site? Who built this site? Those kinds of questions are imperative in understanding our history as a nation and any historical site that you visit.
How long is this here for?
As long as we can keep it up. So definitely a couple of years. It took us about 18 months of blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm not joking when I say that. Everything here was done in-house, from the framing of the frames, of the portraits that you see everywhere, to the maps on the wall. Everything here was designed by Amy Connolly as well, the booklet, etc., the paint, the decals. This has been a labor of love, and so we want to keep it up for as long as we possibly can, but probably more realistically about 2 to 3 years.